They fooled around for a while and stopped talking about Akai. They hugged each other and talked about cosmetics, bags, and TV series. It became a sisterly conversation. I observed them out of aesthetic curiosity. They were all chosen by Akai. Do they have anything in common? When I compared them together, I found that they really had nothing in common. They were fat and thin, tall and short, hot and cold, beautiful and ordinary. They were just like a harem with various looks. I could only sigh that Akai was so lucky and really not picky. I found that Akai's mother didn't walk far away. She stood nearby without moving. At this distance, she should have heard what our table said. I walked over. "What's wrong with Auntie? Are you tired?" Akai's mother looked dazed, not like normal, and murmured, "They are not Akai's classmates." I froze, and my mind was working quickly. What was wrong? Akai's mother obviously didn't see through when she arranged them to sit at the same table. Was that what they said just now? But the information they said was all told to me by Akai. I was brainstorming how to explain when the housekeeper suddenly appeared and said that the lady was tired, so he helped her away. I went back to the dining table and heard that the 17 women had started a new topic. Spirit about photo was put in the wrong place. Me? What photo was put in the wrong place? The squad leader was not too drunk yet, so he came close to me and said, "The photo at the funeral was not Akai." I was stunned. The women said that they almost went to the wrong funeral hall. The black and white photo in front of the coffin was not Akai at all, but the identity information was his. They thought that Akai's mother was in a bad mental state and put it in the wrong place. They didn't want to irritate her, so they didn't remind her. And seeing that no one else reacted, they all continued to worship. As soon as I arrived, I stared at these 17 women in a hurry. I didn't even have time to worship. At this time, I immediately ran to the funeral hall. The person in the photo was indeed not Akai. He looked ordinary, a little fat, and there seemed to be resentment between his eyebrows. He was a complete stranger. I went to remind Akai's mother that the person was dead, and it was the minimum respect to put the photo correctly. Akai's mother said, "This is Akai, me." After I confirmed it several times, she changed her words in a daze, saying that she remembered it wrongly. Her eyes were a little distracted, and her mental state was indeed not right. How could she remember her son's posthumous photo wrongly? I wanted to ask again, but the housekeeper sent her back. Akai's mother's health was getting worse. The housekeeper said that she had uremia and she didn't have many years left. I never thought that the old man would send off the young man. But until the end of the funeral that day, the posthumous photo was not changed. It was still a stranger with Akai's name. I looked at it for a long time, secretly took a photo of it, and sent it to my cousin. My cousin has many connections and has connections in both the black and white worlds. It is not difficult to investigate a person. When I went back, I saw a few wreaths in the funeral hall with teachers' condolences written on them. They were signed to Akai's mother. I asked the housekeeper. Akai's mother was also a teacher. housekeeper. No, my wife sponsored several children in need when she was young. These are from the sponsored children. Most of them are now successful in their studies. After the funeral, I said goodbye to my 17 girlfriends. I was afraid that they would let the cat out of the bag on the way. They all started to add WeChat to create a group. They said they wanted to build a group for the Lovelorn Alliance. Are you kidding? Can I let them join? Now I am just drunk and my mind is not clear. I actually let a lot of things slip out. When I sober up, I will definitely be exposed if I talk about it. There were too many cars at the funeral. The rich second generation can even turn a funeral into a trading place. We had to stand aside and make way for the cars. The play had to be played to the end. Girlfriend Shaoli was still leaning on my shoulder. She was almost unconscious and was still mumbling about the gift. Me. What gift? Shaoli. No. 1803. I didn't hear what she said clearly. Someone jumped out from behind. It was the squad leader. She was obviously drunk. She fell over and knocked Shaoli and me apart. She walked through us and staggered forward. Shaoli lost her support and was about to fall. I hurried to help her. I wanted to turn back and yell at the reckless squad leader, asking her to walk properly and not run around. But I saw her looking at me quietly, a little far away from me, staggering back, barefoot like a light bird. Suddenly, a car rushed over. It didn't turn on the headlights and was completely inconspicuous. Everyone was drunk and dazed in the middle of the night. It wasn't until the car knocked the squad leader away that I realized there was a car coming. The squad leader rolled 5 meters away and was motionless. The driver fled without a moment's pause, as if he had been prepared and ran after the collision. The squad leader was bleeding, the women were screaming. And other guests who came out one after another were either exclaiming or moving away. A Bugatti Veyron drove over and honked. Get rid of the people quickly. How can I move if they are blocking the road? He was a slightly drunk young man, a little irritable. The honking sounds from behind gradually increased, and the frequency was obviously impatience. No one cared about the driver who escaped. The squad leader was lying in the lane in colorful clothes, like a roadblock. The cars behind were more luxurious than one another, and they were all calling for security to clear the roadblock. I sobered up instantly, and it seemed that I still had 3 years of friendship with Akai. Not all rich people are Akai. I quickly walked over and squatted down, gave the squad leader a simple check, and said to the onlookers, I am a medical student. The injured is still alive. Everyone disperse. Don't gather around. Shaoli, call an ambulance. The possibility of intracranial hemorrhage cannot be ruled out. She can't move now. Security, please mark an aisle and let them pass first. I gave the squad leader first aid. Shaoli hurriedly called for an ambulance. The security guard cursed and found 2 rusty roadblocks. Threw them near the squad leader's body and flattered to guide the luxury car that had been waiting for a long time to turn from the side. When the Bugatti Veyron passed by, the people in the car seemed to be high, and the music floated out of the car window. He knocked on the car door. spat on the ground, and spat at my feet. Toss. This is not a funeral hall. Send it in and do it together, isn't it? There were two women in the car, laughing out loud, sticking to the man, blindfolded, and said they would have luxury cars drove away one after another, leaving only me and the 16 women outside the mourning hall. The women were all awake, and none of them left. It was almost midnight when we arrived at the hospital. The mourning hall was located in a remote place, a manor that was specially used for rich people to hold funerals. The ambulance arrived more than an hour later. I followed the ambulance and reported her condition to the nurse on board. While in the car, the squad leader woke up briefly and kept staring at me. Her eyes penetrated me, and I didn't know who she was looking at. She was breathing weakly and muttered a few words in an unclear consciousness before fainting again. Medical students are all like this. You and him seem. He is like this too. When I fell down that time, he was very worried, afraid that I would be damaged at all. It seems that my body is extremely important to him. When I arrived at the hospital, I found that the 16 girlfriends also took a taxi to follow, disheveled and stumbling. The friendship of a short funeral meal has tied them together. The squad leader was pushed into the emergency room. The doctor said that she was bleeding too much and needed a blood transfusion, but the hospital was running out of blood bags and the squad leader was tight. Oh, Shaoli and Maimei immediately stood up and said that they wanted their blood. They were type O. As soon as they finished speaking, Axon and Jasmine also raised their hands. They were also type O. The rest of the people also raised their hands. I asked around and found an astonishing fact that all the 17 girlfriends were type. I was stunned. A common point I had been looking for a long time turned out to be here. The second generation of rich people are so precise in finding girlfriends, and they have to be precise to the blood type. What kind of perverted aesthetic preference is this? They are not vampires. The women started to fight and wanted the nurses to transfuse their blood. They were brought to the hospital with drunkenness. Those who didn't know them would think that they were sisters with deep feelings. How could they be like people who just met today? The nurses were annoyed. I sighed and comforted them. Stop it. You drank alcohol and don't meet the blood donation standards. Give me the blood. I didn't drink alcohol, and I'm also type O. I drew 400 milliliters of blood in one breath and watched the blood flow out of my body and into the monitor's body. She still closed her eyes, and her face was pale, but her face was calm. Not like she had experienced any suffering, as if she had just fallen into a dream that she didn't want to wake up. Akai must not be waiting for her there. He has too many people to wait for. So she will come back, right? I think.